This is the last example where we will show you an extended automation flow. When the flow is executed, of course you can do it manually by pressing the run button, but you can also use a trigger URL. In such a way, your source system can make an API call to this URL, and then the flow will be triggered. You can also pass a parameter into the flow. This would then be used as input. Once we have received the input, we can set a customer ID to be used in all the blocks in this flow. Next, we want to see in which tenant are we running. You can do that using the get current tenant info block. For some purposes, you also want to get the current user ID running the flow. For example, if you want to recreate that user in a customer tenant or apply groups to this user. We set the variable for the source tenant because we have the concept of source and target tenants. For example, your template apps will be stored on the source tenant, and we will copy the app to each customer, or also called a target tenant. Once we have copied the template app to a customer specific tenant, we want to update the script, because inside the Qlik send script we can have select star from customer table where our customer ID is dummy, and we want to replace the dummy value by the specific ID for that customer. In this way we will only load customer data into the app for the specific customer. On the source tenant we can do some checks. For example, if we made a design decision that we store the template app in the template space, we only expect one template to exist. Then we can use condition block where we can make some assertions. And if the assertion is wrong, we can throw an error with a specific message. If everything is fine, we can continue. We did find a template app in the template space, so we can store the ID, because later on we will copy the template into the target tenant. So copy from source to customer target. On the source tenant, let us open the property panel. On the source tenant, we can find the app we want to copy. And we retrieved the app ID in the previous step, the libs apps2 block. It's basically this block. Here we search for a template in the template space. Of course, you can also search by name, or if you already have the ID in your database, you can also inject it here. But here we inject the space ID and we expect only one template app to exist in that space. If there are more, we throw an error. So we found the template app. We will export the template app. Qlik Cloud has some temporary file storage. You don't have to worry about that. So we export the app. Also, we might need some specific sheet names, so we set a variable for that. Again, you can choose to store variable values here or store them in your configuration database. Again, we can do some assertions. If the sheet ID exists in the configuration database, then we can execute our flow. If not, we can throw an error. I make a query to my configuration database. For example, in which space do I store the app? In which space do I store the intermediate result? Because if you import an app, you first have to import it into a shared space and later on into a managed space. So for all these important assets, we will initialize the variables. Let's open this block. Before we can import the app, we first need to get the shared space ID. So on the target tenant, I use the list space block, and I want to find the space that has the shared value in its name. Once I retrieve that value, I can store it in a variable to be used later on. Before I copy my shared space, I want to delete any existing apps, older versions of my app basically. Next, I can import the app into the target tenant. I can give it a name and I can reuse the space ID we defined before. Once we have imported the app into the customer tenant, we want to get the script from the app and replace the dummy value with a specific customer ID so we can run the correct SQL statement to get the data out of your database. For example, select star from sales where customer ID is 123. In order to ensure the script is executed correctly, we first do a check if the placeholders are still present in the template app. If not, we throw an error. We can check in which development, test or production environment we are, and based on that we can do certain things. We can update the script to connect to our development database or connect to the production database. If no correct placeholder is found in the script, we throw an error. Let's look what an example script replacement looks like. We have a variable with the customer script and we update it. We can replace the value. So we look for a specific value in the script and we replace it with the new value. In this case, your SQL Server string would be inserted. After we updated the script with a simple find replace script block, we can then insert the updated script back into the app. So connect to our target tenant. Which app do we want to update? We inject the updated script. And if we are done, we can reload the app. Same again, using the variables, target tenant, which app ID, and reload it. We can check if the reload has failed by using the get reload status block. If it has failed, we can throw an error and we stop the automation. But you can also, of course, send a message to Teams or send an email using the other blocks on the left side. You can also choose not to reload the app in the shared space, but do it later on in the managed space. That's basically what we did here. So we've now imported our app into the shared space, and we're going to move or publish the app to the managed space. We're going to list the apps that are currently in our managed space. Is there already an app? And we use the condition of the previous block. If there's already an app, we can delete it. And we also delete it from our configuration database. And we can republish the app to the managed space. We update the managed space ID. Again, we update the value with the value retrieved from the previous block. To make sure our configuration database is in sync with Qlik Cloud, we update the values by using the update statement in our SQL Server. If the app did not exist yet in the managed space, we can just publish the app to the managed space, save the space ID, and also update our configuration database. Once we're done, we can reload the app and we can make a console message that everything went fine. Or you can write it to a database or other logging system. If you create a new automation, you can find a lot of templates. For example, send a message to Teams.